Hello everyone, welcome in. Just finishing setting up over here real quick. We'll be starting in just a few moments. Make sure that your mics are muted. You have a clear space, a yoga mat, a pash. You don't need the yoga mat, but I would definitely recommend having a pash nearby. Hey everyone, thank you guys so much for joining Headbanger Prehab. We're gonna have 3 minutes until we begin, just to make sure that everybody's coming through. So we're gonna have that 5-minute window to kind of let the stragglers come on in, hopefully find their Zoom links. Make sure you have a clear space, you have some water nearby. This isn't gonna be super challenging, but you guys should probably start getting a head start on your hydration game anyway, especially once you head to the valley. And even if you're not heading to the valley, it's super important to make sure that you're drinking enough water. So we'll give another 2-ish minutes or so for other people to show up. So this is how we're gonna do it. We are first gonna do about 20 to 30 minutes of a structured mobility routine. And then we are going to open the floor to address any questions or concerns regarding mobilities you have. So if anyone has any specific pains that they want to bring up at the end of the routine, make sure to raise your hand. And I'm gonna call on anywhere between 3 to 5 people, depending on time, to bring up an area where they're feeling pain. And we're gonna go through some strategies to help improve your mobility, so that way you're not in as much pain on the dance floor. So 2 more minutes and then we'll get started. See if anyone is straggling. Maybe send the Zoom link if some people are struggling to find it. Thank you guys for sharing the Zoom link or saving the Zoom links. I know Calendly, it's in the confirmation email, but I know that it can be a little bit difficult to find. So let me make sure that everybody is finding it. Send this to a few who signed up. All right, we're gonna give it another 1 minute, about 1 minute. I may stop if I see there's a few people in the waiting room, but hopefully everybody saved their links like I said to. Okay, a few more seconds and then we'll get started. Again, make sure that you have a clear space, you have a pashmina. We're gonna use that pashmina for some fun stretches, okay? Okay, all right, so here we go. Headbanger Prehab, thank you guys so much for joining today. I hope you guys are super excited for the Dubstep Super Bowl or Dubstep Disneyland, however you want to call it. But we're getting ready for a really amazing weekend. Next weekend, we're going to be headbanging with some dinos. We're going to be grooving on the dance floor. But if we want to be here for a good time and a long time, we got to take care of our bodies. We got to keep ourselves mobilized. Age is just a number, and the longer we live, the more life that our bodies live, the more care and TLC that our bodies need in order to carry us to the finish line of life and be able to finish our lives on a strong note, dance until the day we just got to make it to the end. We got to dance our hearts out for our entire life, right? Trying to go somewhere. Sorry, your girl's a little bit tired. Sleep's been a little bit of a struggle the last few weeks, so we're making it happen anyway. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to mobility, you want to focus on the center of your body first. Now, when you're also headbanging too, you have to make sure that you're careful. Headbang from the hips, not like this with your spine. I know that we talk about, you know, breaking our spines and breaking our necks, but you know what? We can joke about it, but let's actually take care of ourselves. So in order to do this, we're going to start off with some pelvic tilts. We're going to focus on our pelvic mobility to start. Then we're going to work to our knees and our ankles, and then we're going to work on our upper body. So we're going to start off with supine pelvic tilt. So we're going to lay on our back as flat as you can. Feet should be about hip width apart, pointed straight forward. Knees should be pointed straight up as well. Lay down on your back. Try to push the bottom of your rib cage down. And from here, we're gonna focus on isolating the pelvis. So think of your rib cage and your pelvis as 2 buckets. You have your pelvis, which is a bucket that's stacked upwards, and then you have your rib cage that is a bucket stacked downwards. When we're talking about core control, especially in any mobility exercise, we're talking about having mobility between those two buckets, whether they're moving together, keeping our core controlled, or they're moving independently, focusing on that core mobility. So we're gonna focus on core mobility with those supine pelvic tilts, and think about your pelvis as a bucket that you are tilting away from you, and then you're gonna be pulling the top of that bucket towards you. Meanwhile, you're keeping the bottom of your rib cage stacked down with your chest up, and you are maintaining that position with your rib cage. You're moving the bottom pelvis independently. So we're gonna be tilting forward, and then you're gonna pull back. Try to think about how your spine is straight down the middle of your pelvis, and you wanna think about the base of your spine. Think about the base of your spine as you're tilting your pelvis forward and back. So this is gonna work on our lower core mobility here. So we're gonna do 5 of these, and you wanna squeeze, and when you're pulling your pelvis back towards you, when you're tilting that bucket backwards, you're pushing your spine into the ground. And then as you bring that pelvis away, you're slightly arching, but not overarching. Again, you wanna maintain that bottom of your rib cage pushed downwards. You don't wanna be arching from your upper back. You're focusing on pulling and pushing the top of your pelvis away from you. And now we're gonna do it on all fours. So we're gonna do it on our hands and knees. Hands should be underneath your shoulders. Knees should be right underneath your hips. And we're gonna do the same exact thing, but we're gonna do it from this position. And while you're doing it in this position, think about pushing your hands away from the ground the whole time. So you're maintaining a slight upper rounding of your upper spine. And then we're focusing on isolating our pelvis. So we're pushing our pelvis in and up. So we're doing cat to cows basically. Think about tilting that bucket backwards, and then you're kind of tucking the bottom of your pelvis down towards the back of your knees. This is gonna help activate the hamstrings as well as we're going through this range of motion. So the difference between mobility and static stretching is mobility is similar to stretching, but you're going through a dynamic movement. And that's how we wanna try to think about it. When we're headbanging, we wanna focus on maintaining as good posture as we can while headbanging. I know sometimes it can get really exciting and you just want to flash yourself around. I totally get it. Sometimes I'm like the rail of that too. But make sure to take a few seconds to check in with your body. Check in with how your body feels. Do you feel tight anywhere? Are you maintaining good posture while you're standing? And then when you are dancing, are you trying to keep your spine neutral, or are you just kind of flailing it around everywhere? We want to try to maintain as much control when we're dancing as possible so we don't hurt ourselves. So again, we could be here for a good time and a long time. All right, so now we're gonna go and we're gonna do a little bit of a calf stretch here. So we're gonna come up on our feet. We're gonna get into that down dog. Now I want you to try to push your pelvis up to the sky and straighten out your back. Then we're gonna push one heel down while bringing the opposite knee forward. And at the same time, you wanna make sure that your pelvis is neutral, that you're not shifting your pelvis around either. So we're maintaining that stability that we activated from doing the pelvic tilts. This is why it's really important to do the basic stuff. The basic stuff is what's gonna help you move forward. A lot of you guys, when you go to the gym, you're like introducing all these new workouts and thinking that's gonna get you in better shape, but like you wanna focus on mastering the basics, mastering that core control and that core mobility in any exercise that you do. So let's do a few more calf stretches here. Good. Now this is going to be my favorite. This is my favorite exercise for headbangers. It's really, really good for developing strength on your supporting muscles of your spine. So there's a lot of different muscles that support your spine. There's the longissimus, there's a few other ones. I'm not going to get into the technical names, but if we can maintain good posture while doing Supermans, that's really good for us. But the problem is the way that I see a lot of people doing Supermans is that you're just arching from your lower back, and that's going to tighten things up, and that's going to kind of do the opposite of what we want, right? So we want to focus on using Supermans to strengthen our glutes and our upper thoracic, rhomboid, upper lat mobility, and not just tightening up down here. So how do we do Supermans without getting super tight in our lower back? Well, I'm going to show you. Let me unclip this so it doesn't get super loud and annoying. I am recording on my phone here. Okay, so when you're doing Supermans, I see a lot of people doing it like this. like you're just arching super hard from here, right? And we want to avoid that. We really want to focus on activating our glutes and our muscles up here. If we can strengthen our glutes and our upper spine, that's going to protect our lower back when we're headbanging. So before we even get into that Superman position, try to think about what we just did with the pelvic tilts, where you kind of tilted that pelvis inwards and we were activating your lower core. So you want to have that active at the same time while you're pushing your hips into the ground. So lower core active, you're pulling the top of your pelvis in towards your rib cage. At the same time, you're pushing your glutes down, you're pushing your hips, your pelvis into the ground, and that's gonna activate your glutes. And that's gonna lift your legs up like this. You don't have to arch from your lower back or think of yourself like a fish, right? You wanna try to push your pelvis down, squeeze those glutes. And then from here, you want to, again, bring the bottom of your rib cage down to activate your core, but also lift your chest up at the same time. This is going to help activate your serratus muscles more. And those muscles tend to get pretty weak if you are sitting at a desk all day, right? Like, even though we rave, even though we love to dance, a lot of us have jobs that have us sitting on our butts, right? So over time, our core becomes weak and we lose control of it when we're doing all of these other exercises. So you want to be conscious about using that core control, that core mobility by thinking of those two buckets stabilized with each other. Lift your arms up. Again, push the bottom of the rib cage down into your spine while lifting your chest up. This is going to activate your rhomboids, your serratus, some of your lats. And again, because we activated our lower core before starting the Superman, we're activating our glutes more. So we're going to hold this for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And repeat that again. I thought I saw someone join the room, but they left. Okay, so we're going to do 8 of those. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Push glutes down, lift chest up. Remember to keep that core active. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And down, that's 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And down. Take a second, activate your core again. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And down. That's 4 and up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and down. Now on these last 2 reps, I want you guys to try this. When you're up in the Superman position, try to rotate your knees outwards and inwards while your legs are up, okay? It might be challenging. If you can't do it, that's totally fine. Just stick to doing the regular Superman. But if you feel comfortable in it, try to practice internally and externally rotating your knees from your hips. Ready, set, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and down. Do you notice any of those legs moving differently? And up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. Those are honestly the Supermans. Those are one of the best exercises. The pelvic tilts and the Supermans are some of the best ones that you can do before going into the show and afterwards. You really want to do all these dynamic exercises, dynamic stretches and mobility movements prior to the show, and then after incorporate a little bit more static stretching. So now we're going to do something called Superman swimmers, and it's very similar to Superman's, except there's going to be one key difference. We're going to focus on bringing one arm up and one leg up at a time, but it's going to be opposite arm and opposite leg. All right, so this is another key mobility exercise. We're focusing on that, on a little bit of a twist here. So getting into the Superman position, you're going to raise your left leg and your right arm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, make sure you're not arching from your lower back. You're driving your pelvis into the ground and you're lifting your chest up while keeping the bottom of your rib cage tucked in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. All right, so next one we're gonna do is 90-90 hip shifts. And this one is also really good for opening up the hips. It does feel a little bit awkward at first, but it is really good for developing more internal and external rotation from the hips as well. So you're gonna start off with your knees a little bit wider than shoulder width apart, and your feet, you want your toes up. You want to try to think about how you're moving your knees versus how your feet are. How your knees are moving in relation to your hip. Try to keep your hip pushed back. You're going to scoot up a little bit probably. Most of the time we're going to scoot a little bit while doing this exercise. But you want to try to think about bringing one knee as close to the ground as you can with as minimal hip movement as you can. There's gonna be a little bit, but we wanna try have minimal hip movement. That's gonna help with your core control as well. So try to think about your knees shifting from side to side to side. And we're gonna do 5 on each side, 5 more. So that's 1. Try to notice if any of those legs feel a little bit different. 2. Or wait, no, that's 1 on that side. 2. If you have to readjust, that's totally fine. You can also place your hands on your hips too. Try to feel how your hips are moving. Is one hip moving higher than the other? Is one hip moving lower than the other? When we're talking about mobility, mobility truly starts from your ability to control from the core. If you're not paying attention to your mobility, it's a lot easier to get injured on the dance floor, at the gym, no matter what activity you love to do, even if it's just hiking. You have to take care of your mobility because it's very easy to get stiff in a lot of ways that can make you feel a little bit constricted from the things that you love to do. All right, perfect. So next, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our pashminas and we're gonna do a hamstring stretch. So for this hamstring stretch, you're gonna lie on your back and wrap around one leg. Let's start with this one. So you're gonna pull back as you lean back. Again, try to keep your back flat, just like we did with the pelvic tilt. Pull your hips in, push your back down onto the ground, and pull your knee towards you. You could try twisting your knee left and right. Try to feel how your femur, how that, how your thigh is moving in relation to your hips. Sorry, I'm a little bit tired. My cat's in heat right now, and she has been a menace the last few days. So pardon me if I am misspeaking a little bit. So try to shift that knee left and right as you pull. Again, try to focus on keeping your pelvis as steady as possible. Pull your belly button down towards your spine. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna hold on with one arm and just gently bring that leg out to the side, just a little bit. We're not trying to go as far as we can. We're just going far enough that we're able to keep our pelvis on the ground stable, but getting a little bit of a hip flexor stretch. You can hold on to your mat with your other hand if you need to, or onto something else. But again, you're not trying to go as far as you can. We're trying to keep that pelvis steady. Let's go to the other leg. We're gonna stretch the hamstring out, lay back on your back, and pull your knee in towards you. Twist from side to side. Try to feel how that femur is moving in your hip socket. Good. And then we're gonna hold up, bring that belly button down to your spine, keep your pelvis stable. We don't wanna be twisting our entire body. We're just gently bringing our leg out to the side ever so slightly, but in a way that we can control it, in a way that we can feel the bottom of our stomach engaged. Perfect. All right, so let me show you another pashmina stretch. Oh, we got another girly in here. 1 second. All right, so we're gonna do a little bit of shoulder action here, a little bit of shoulder mobility. First one we're gonna do, actually, before we get into the pashmina stretch, we're gonna do some of my favorite headbanger stretches here. Now, a lot of you guys probably work jobs where you're at a computer all day, right? You probably are also on your phone a lot. You have your head down all of the time. And when we go headbanging, when we're dancing, you know, you feel it in the back of your head, like a lot. And you think that, oh, if I stretch what hurts, that's gonna make me feel better. Well, that's a big mistake because the problem isn't just the back of your neck. Actually, the back of your spine, the back of your neck, that muscle is typically overstretched to the point that it's spasming. Because your lifestyle, you have your head down so much, your frontal neck muscles and your chest, they all tighten up. So all of these muscles get tight, overstretching the back muscles, causing them to spasm, and that's what's gonna contribute to your neck pain. So what we wanna do is alleviate some of that pain by stretching the front of our neck and our chest. So what we're gonna do first is stretch the front of our neck, and you wanna sit tall. You can either sit on your heels like this, or you can stand up. I wouldn't necessarily recommend sitting crisscross applesauce unless you're really good at keeping your pelvis neutral. So what we're gonna do is put our hands underneath our chin, and here's a trick too. Put your tongue on the roof of your mouth. I know it sounds weird, but you're gonna see exactly what I mean when we get into the stretch. So bottom of rib cage tucked down, you're gonna lift your chest up, and you're gonna push with your hands, push your chin backwards with your tongue on the roof of your mouth. And you're gonna feel a big stretch there. So you're trying to bring the bottom of the rib cage down, lifting your chest up. I know it sounds opposite, but that's gonna help loosen up everything. And you can hear it's a little bit hard to talk when you're in this stretch, right? So take deep breaths. Again, bring the bottom of your rib cage down. Didn't mean to unclip that. And then try to tilt your chin slightly to the right. Slightly to the right. You're gonna feel a stretch on the right side of your neck, the right front side. And then bring it back to the center and then go to the left, but do it slowly. Do it slowly. You don't wanna like strain your neck. You wanna go with the movement. Now you're gonna feel, when you're doing this, when you tilt your chin to the side, you're probably even gonna feel a stretch in the shoulder, right? That's because your delt and your cervical muscles are deeply connected to each other. If one is tight, the other will be too. I also recommend, if you have like lotion at camp, give yourself a massage too. Like if you get some lotion on your fingers and go from the base of your earlobe down to your collarbone, follow that muscle, follow the muscles that you feel, like massage them with your fingers and then stretch. Woo, girl, you're gonna feel fresh as a daisy every single day at Lost Lands, I guarantee it. All right, so now we got that stretch. Now we're gonna do a lateral neck stretch. And the way we're gonna get deeper into this stretch is by taking one arm and placing it behind our back. This is gonna be pulling our tricep muscle, our delt muscle downward more. So we're gonna get even deeper stretch out of it. So while you're in this position, think about pushing your elbow down, keeping your chest up. Again, keep the bottom of your rib cage tucked in. And then you're gonna take your hand, place it on your opposite earlobe and pull. You wanna pull with your hand. You don't wanna move with your head. You want your hand to do the motion, right? That's gonna help with the stretch. We want a more passive stretch. And hold that, deep breaths. Try tilting your chin up and down, up and down. Try to keep your tongue on the roof of your mouth too. It's funny how putting your tongue on the roof of your mouth just makes neck stretches so much deeper. I'll be honest, I'm not 100% sure why. I have to look that up, but it's pretty interesting. And this is the thing too, like spend some time getting to know your body, getting to know how it moves, how strong it is. How strong do you want it to be? How strong do you want to feel on the dance floor when you're 10 years from now, 20 years? Because if you're here, you guys are all about raving to the grave. We're here for a good time and a long time. So you know what? We're trying to be here as long as possible, making the most of it. Other hand, behind your back, push your elbow down, hand on your earlobe, and gently pull to the side. Remember, your hand is doing the stretch. And then once you're deep in that stretch, try tilting your chin up and down. This is why we call it mobility, is we're getting some movement in during the stretch. Yoga is kind of a combination of mobility and stretching, but this is supposed to mainly be focused on stretching. And it's less so flow and more about the intention that we are getting our body ready and warmed up for a weekend of nonstop headbanging or shuffling or whatever kind of dancing that you do, flowing. If you're hooping, if you're a flow artist, guys, you got to take care of your shoulders. You got to keep your shoulders strong. You got to keep them mobile, which is why this exercise is really great to do before you go into flow star or hoop practice. Take your pashmina and hold on to it with your arms out, squeezing with your pinky and your index finger. Take a second to set up. Keep your chest tall, bottom rib cage down, and you're gonna bring it up and over. The closer your hands are together, the harder it will be. So for example, if I hold on to here, oh yeah, that's a lot harder. So go at a distance that's comfortable for you. Try to think about how your arms are moving, how your elbows are positioned in relation to your shoulders. How is your rib cage oriented? Is your pelvis stable and your rib cage stable while you're doing this? If not, what muscles can you use to help keep it stable? Try to think about how your spine should be neutral, should be straight, going right from the middle of your pelvis up right through your rib cage. Are you squeezing with your pinky and your index finger? Then we're going to do around the world. So we're going to come up and around. So one arm up as the other is down, and you're pulling around, going above your head, back down, other arm up, bring it around town, and back down, up, around town, and down, around Legend Valley, and down. Dancing with the dinos, and down. And then we're gonna go the opposite way. Woo! Warming up those shoulders. Again, trying to keep your core as stable as you can. I guarantee you guys, if you do some mobility, if you even do just 10 or 15 minutes in the morning before the show, you're gonna feel so good. You don't have to do whole hour of anything to feel good in your body. And a lot of these movements, you can do a lot of things standing too. Like those neck stretches we just did, you could do those during the show. You could even do like Superman standing, just focus on like doing it in a standing position. I know that sounds kind of weird, but like if your back starts to feel tight, focus on your core, focus on your pelvis, focus on your rib cage, like, you know, take care of your body. And also make sure you're drinking your water, which is something I might be doing right here. Make sure you're drinking your water, eat your protein. Your muscles are gonna need it. You guys need food. We fuel for our feral activities. We gotta fuel to help our bodies fully recover, right? All right, so next one we're gonna do is we're gonna do something called thread the needle. And I think I might have to move a little bit for space. There we go. All right, so we're gonna get back into an all four position. Now, stabilize your pelvis, tuck that in, push your chest forward while keeping the bottom of your rib cage tucked in. And then we're gonna take one arm and we're gonna thread it through the other, thinking about keeping your pelvis as stable as possible, but you're rotating from the rib cage. You're rotating from the rib cage and you are reaching. You're reaching as you come down. You're almost kind of pushing your hips back slightly as you come down, and that's gonna help keep them over the pelvis. Then we're gonna switch, dynamic, reach, sun's in my eyes, waking me up, so need it right now. My cat found out I'm gonna go to a festival and she's like, let me get you used to not sleeping enough. I'm not happy with that cat right now. Spay your pets, please. For the love of all that is good, spay your pets. She's been an indoor cat and there's just a lot of reasons, but we're finally getting her spayed next month. All right, a few more. Again, think about how you're rotating your rib cage in relation to your pelvis. Visualize your spine. Good. All right, so now we're gonna activate our abductors. Now, a lot of people will not work their inner thighs enough and focus more so on things like glute abductions, push knees out. That's gonna build your round glutes. And like, yes, that helps, but then you're starting to neglect your adductor strength. And believe me, as somebody who's neglected that in the past, you guys are gonna want your adductors strong and capable, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna lie on our side with one leg bent, and you could either have that one leg behind or you can have it in front. This way is a better way. You're gonna get much more efficient activation this way. But if you struggle with this position, you can also do it like this, okay? So what we're gonna do is bring one foot in front of the other leg or directly behind, whatever's most comfortable for you. Make sure that your pelvis is stacked, that you're not leaning backwards, that one side of your pelvis is directly underneath the other. Tuck the pelvis in like we did with the pelvic tilts, and then you're going to raise your knee. Your knee should be facing straight in front. Knee should be facing the wall in front of you. Raise it up high. Again, try to keep your pelvis stable, and then down. Up and down. Up and down. We're going to do 7 more of these. Up and down. Up and down. Remember, maintain that core stability in your lower core. And down. 5, 4. You can also rest your hand like this, whatever's most comfortable. 3, 2, 1. And then we'll do the other side. And I'm gonna turn this way so you guys aren't staring at my butt. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1. Remember, knee should be facing the wall in front of you if there is a wall. If there is no wall, then zoom. Have your knee face the zoom. 2, 3, and then also try to take note. Which side feels harder? Does one side feel more challenging? Is it based on how your pelvis is oriented? Or is it just that muscle might be a little bit weaker? You want to pay attention to these cues. When you're feeling pain in your body, it's just a sign of a movement dysfunction that you need to pay attention to. And that's going to improve your performance in the gym and on the dance floor. 2 more. 1 more. Good. All right. All right, we're gonna do 1 more, and this is also one of my favorites. These are called bootstrapper reaches. And actually, sorry, I lied. We've got 2 more. But we will be standing up. I'm gonna move this back a little bit. We're gonna stand up for this one. Forgot, before we do the bootstrapper reaches, I gotta show you one of my favorites. 1 second. There we go. All right. So this is a hamstring stretch with a twist. So we want to stand with our feet, hip width apart. You're going to take one leg and put that heel in line with that front toe, but not directly in front. So it's just in line with that front toe, but still hip width apart. And you want to push that heel down. Push that heel down as you push your hips back and you lean forward with a neutral spine. So again, when we were doing the pelvic tilts and we were focusing on that control, we want our pelvis and our rib cage moving together this time. So we're pushing our hips back. Good. Keeping everything tight here. Bottom rib cage in, chest up. Then we're going to have our arms directly in front of us here. So clasp your hands like this, and then almost like you're golfing, almost like you're trying to hit a golf ball. You're going to twist your torso. Again, keeping your pelvis stable. Think of like how we did the thread the needles, where we're doing this from a standing hamstring stretch position. And we're going to twist back and then twist the opposite way. This is great for our deep core mobility and our hamstring mobility too. It also helps when you exhale during the twist. This one you can do during the show too. 10 out of 10, recommend. Remember, you want to be actively trying to push that heel down while you're pushing your hips away. This is going to help stretch out your hamstrings more. And we're going to be stretching them in a dynamic way. Static stretching is good and all, but it's not a cure-all. All right, now we're going to do the other leg. Push that heel down. Push the hips back. Straight spine, neutral spine. Sometimes you have to shimmy a little bit. Like, I have a previous hip injury, so sometimes I put my hands on my hips to try to make sure that my pelvis is oriented right. I've been lifting for a long time, but this body still needs that extra care. And also, again, I wish I did more mobility years ago. Learn from Dana. Get started on it now. The longer you wait, the harder it is. Doesn't mean impossible, though. Twisting and hitting that golf ball. Let's do 2 more. 1 more. Awesome. Okay, so next one is called a bootstrapper reach, and this one, it's a little bit easier if you stand wide. So it just depends on what squat is most comfortable for you. If you have a difficulty with squatting, let me think of an alternative after I show the main one. So with the bootstrapper reach, we're gonna get into a deep squat, kind of shimmy your way in, pushing your hips down. If you stand with your feet wider, it's gonna be a little bit easier. You're gonna have a little bit more opening in the hips. Harder if your feet are together, but you're gonna get more adductor action. And then if you have a hard time getting into that deep squat, just focus on doing it like an RDL pattern. So you're kind of like bending over, but keeping your spine neutral, and then you'll just do the twists from that position. So we're gonna go into our bootstrapper reach. Take a second to find your comfort. And then you're gonna bring one arm up and reach to the ceiling. Again, try to keep your pelvis as stable as you can. Try to think of that bucket. Try to think of that bucket staying stationary. Think about pulling your heels and your knees together while maintaining that outward rotation. I will literally drop in the dance floor and start doing these. If you see me at a rave, you've probably seen me do it. This and Cossack squats. We're not going to do Cossack squats in this one though. Let's do 1 more. Awesome. All right, so now I'm going to open the floor. Does anybody have any specific joint pains or mobility questions? Make sure that you raise your hand in the Zoom. I'm going to give you guys a few seconds to think of a question if you have any. But hope you guys are feeling good. Hope you guys are feeling excited. I'm super excited. Like, also, if you're flying, do these in the airport. You don't have to do the entire routine, but try to pick the ones that benefit you the most, right? Like, if you don't have a place to lay down, focus on the standing hamstring stretch and twist and the bootstrap reaches. If you can lay down, do what you can. You can also do calf stretches up against the wall, up against the rail. Shit, sometimes when I'm at the rail, I'll literally bring my leg up and stretch out my hamstrings. The whole idea that stretching, this is the thing about social media. When I see something that's like, oh, when you're a 25 and up raver and you're stretching during the rave, almost like it's a bad thing or almost like it's a shameful thing, but it's not. We gotta take care of our bodies. The more we take care of our bodies, the more life we have to live. All right, Sin, what is your question? Feel free to unmute yourself.
Hi, so I am a flow artist. I have a dragon staff and I dislocated my right shoulder and like damaged my axillary nerve.
Oh my gosh.
I'm still recovering, but I have like a giant knot in the middle, like right behind my right shoulder blade.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps coming back, and what are some stretches that I could do to kind of like loosen up the back of my shoulder blades?
So for that one, I would recommend thread the needle is a really good one, but upper cats where you're focusing. So we were focusing a lot on our lower pelvis, right? But upper cats is more so focusing on your rib cage and keeping your pelvis stationary. So when you're in this position here, the prone position, you're going to push your rib cage up as high as you can, but keep your pelvis stable. Almost think about pulling your shoulder blades apart and pushing your hands into the ground while pulling your shoulders away. Making sure that your elbows are oriented the same way. One's not twisted out, one's not twisted in. They're both facing the same direction. Push your big finger and your pinky finger down too, so that way you have even weight distribution. If you have a like tennis ball or a lacrosse ball, what you can also do is take that ball and either put it on the ground in between your shoulder blade and one side of your spine, not directly on your spine, but like on one side. And you can like lay back on it and massage it by raising your arm up and down. You can also put it up against the wall and kind of like massage the in between your shoulder blades, because when you have a knot, it's very helpful to like massage and loosen up the muscle fibers and then get into the stretch. So if you have a tennis ball or lacrosse ball, a lacrosse ball peanut is like where you have two balls stuck together. That one's actually even better. Or even if you have like a squad member friend who'd be willing to like do a little bit of a massage in between your shoulder blades before you get into the stretch, that's going to help you a lot. Yeah, of course. And that's why I recommended too, like massaging your neck muscles before going into the stretch, because we have a lot of knots there, especially when we're constantly like doing this movement. We can control our headbanging as much as we want, but regardless, like that excitement, that thrill, and then potentially even the slightly loosening up of inhibitions, we might not be as conscientious as our posture as we would be on a normal basis. So that's why, you know, we want to take better care of our bodies. We want to like massage out those knots, stretch, and strengthen. That's the biggest thing too, is like you can stretch, you can release, but you also want to strengthen. That's the holy trifecta of fitness for festivals, for ravers, and all of that.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Of course. All right, Sammy, what's your question?
All right, so I'm a little newer to like taking care of myself and my body as a little older adult, but I also have scoliosis and some hip issues.
Mm-hmm.
So I've definitely noticed with some of the exercises we did, definitely one side is stronger than the other. But I feel like I don't have that strength yet to really like push through some of those. So what are some recommendations that you would have to help like assist with those stretches without pushing too hard?
Gotcha. Okay, well, that's a really great question. And so I completely relate to that too. I actually have upper thoracic scoliosis, and I also have one side of my rib cage is actually larger than the other. So I have to be conscientious of my posture. And I know that like with a lot of things, I'm not always going to be completely even. I also had gallbladder surgery, so I do have like a lot of scar tissue internally. So things that help is when I work out, when I'm like, you know, focusing on strength training, I record myself. I know that I like post content too, of course, but honestly, like 90% of what I film in the gym, I don't post because it's literally just me checking my form. It's me checking my pelvis. Like I will film squats from the straight back to kind of see how my pelvis and how my elbows are oriented. And it's just, you know, taking it slow. It's a good thing that you're aware that you have scoliosis and hip issues. What kind of hip issues specifically do you have? Is it something that you've had throughout your life?
I think part of it comes from some of the scoliosis, and I think maybe some like car accident trauma. So it just feels like I've always felt like I'm off center all the time. And so I definitely will try to, I think like connecting with my body is a totally new thing as well. So trying to like read and like scan while I'm doing things, trying to take it slow and like feel how I'm doing it. But I always joke around, I'm like, I'm not straight, so I don't always know what's really straight. And people are like, I don't get what you mean by that. I'm like, it's okay. So just trying to like, I think probably I'll do what you say, like about like filming like directly from behind, maybe like seeing myself, or like maybe doing more exercises like directly in a mirror so I can kind of pivot and understand how my body's compensating.
Yes, it can definitely help. The only thing is, if you are training in front of a mirror, trying not to, like when you're doing things like squats and RDLs, you don't want to hyperextend your neck just to like be staring at yourself in the mirror. You want to develop that mind muscle connection naturally. Like checking every now and then is fine, like making sure that your stance is even, but filming yourself with like a phone or a camera, it's going to be a lot more efficient because you're not going to have to adjust your posture to check your posture, because then that can have like, you know, that can have the opposite kind of benefit. Another thing too is with your scoliosis, is it more like upper body or lower body scoliosis? Because we can have upper thoracic or lumbar scoliosis.
I have a tiny bit of both.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I would definitely, you know, record yourself from behind. And then was this something that you were like born with as well, or was it something that was developed?
As far as I know, I mean, I think I developed it at a very young age. I found out like in 6th grade that I had it.
Okay.
But never did anything about it. So we're just out here raw dogging, figuring it out ourselves.
Yeah. Definitely. So the exercises here are a really great way to start. It's a really great way to start with your mobility. I would definitely recommend choosing like 3 to 5 of these exercises as your quote unquote warm up before you do like a main workout. Like, you know, we still want to strengthen our body, but these are just mainly like pre-activation exercises before you go into physical activity.
Okay.
And also congratulations. I'm proud of you.
Appreciate that.
Take care of your body.
I hope to see you at Lost Lands.
Hell yeah. I'm going to have a meetup. I'm going to announce that probably tomorrow. All right, Alex, this will be the last one.
Hi, sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. So I recently had a fall at work and I fell on my arm.
Ooh.
And unfortunately it still hurts. It's been like 3 weeks. It's not broken, it wasn't broken, it was just sprained, but it hurts when I fully extend. Do you have any recommendations for that?
So how did you fall? Like, was it directly on the side? Was it front? Was it back?
So I was stepping down off of a step stool and stepped back wrong, and then I just fell directly onto my arm, like on the elbow part.
Okay. So it was about 3 weeks ago. Did you get checked out by a medical professional afterwards?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had to for call.
And did they discover if there was anything torn, if there's anything broken?
No, the x-ray showed nothing was broken. I don't think anything was torn. It's still functional. It's just, there's just some pain there.
Okay. So when you're feeling that pain, is it like directly, like if you could point out where you're feeling that pain, that would also help.
Right here.
Okay. So it's in the elbow. You're feeling the pain in your elbow. Got it. All right. So, and when you fell, was your arm outstretched or was it bent?
It was like this. So it was outstretched, I guess.
Okay, all right. So maybe it could be an overstretching of the bicep, because our bicep, the tendons will connect in our within our elbow right here. And if it's like elbow pain on the outside, typically that's a tricep issue. So a few things that can help is like do some chest stretches, because when you fell, you might have fallen like this. And then, you know, we have that tightening up. But again, also kind of like with Sin, I would recommend, you know, kind of massaging the area here, because when you fall and you have that pull of the muscle, when we overstretch a muscle, it causes the spasm, and that's what develops knots. So if we can loosen up some of the muscles within the shoulder blade, you know, try to like massage here, and even like massage the muscles on top of your shoulder blade as well. That can help stretch out your chest. The neck stretches should also help as well, because typically if we have a tightness here, it can originate from a dysfunction up here. So focusing on muscle release and then a little bit of mobility. You can even try like doing arm circles. Sorry, again, I'm tired. If words start to do word things, I'm sorry. So you can, if you're up against a wall, like pretend there's a wall right here. You want to bring yourself up against the wall. Outside leg is in front, arms straight forward, bottom rib cage down, chest up, and then try to bring your arm up as high as you can and practice that external rotation as you twist your torso and see how that feels. But I would recommend making sure that you massage and do more simple mobility stretches and movements before that one. But that one can also kind of like help with getting that little bit of an extra stretch. Yeah, but I definitely would recommend, like, if it still bothers you, considering it's a fall at work, see if you can consult a physical therapist to get a much better analysis. There's only so much that I can do on Zoom, especially in the time that we have. So it may be wise to, you know, if you're still feeling that pain after loss lands, to consult another professional, and just be super mindful when you are there.
Thank you.
Of course, and your cat's cute, by the way.
Thank you.
My cat that kept me up all night is also a black cat. I was so mad at her. Oh, but anyway, thank you guys so much for joining today. I'm so glad that we were able to host this virtual workshop. Hopefully we'll be able to make it an official one next year as we did last year, but I'm really glad that you guys were able to come through. I do have a recording up that I will be offering for download. I just have to figure out, you know, how to be able to do that, but I want you guys to be able to practice this anytime at the campgrounds, because you guys should sleep in. Not everybody's going to want to wake up at 10 a.m. or 11 after going to the sound camps. Come on. So we're going to make sure that you guys have this workshop for you. So keep an eye out. I will send the download link to everybody that signed up for Zoom. And I hope you guys all have an amazing rest of your day and get ready for an amazing weekend next weekend. Peace, love, and make sure you get y'all protein and water.